Hello, today I'm going to teach you how to play Scattergories. First, the traditional game in English, and then we're going to learn how to play it in ASL. All right, so here's the traditional game of Scattergories. You pick a list, so there's like 20 different lists and you decide which one you're going to use. I'm just going to give you one. You roll this fancy multi-sided die to pick a letter, and I'm going to give you one of those too, but that's normally how you pick. And then for each category on the list, you choose a word that starts with the letter on the die. So in this case, it would be S. And then for each unique answer you get, meaning the other team didn't pick the same word that you did, you get a point. So the goal is to get as many unique answers as you can, that not the same as everybody else. All right, so here's an example. So say we rolled the die and we got an S, and then we picked list 7, I don't know, whatever. So here's what the list looks like. So what we need to do is come up with one word that starts with the letter S relating to each of these categories. So there's tons of options, right? Something you eat, I picked soup. Other answers could be spaghetti or Snickers, right? Something you wear, I said socks. Other answers could be shirt, skirt, shoes, right? An actress, I went with Susan Sarandon. Now, in the real game, I would get double points for this because she had both her names start with S. A U.S. city, I said Santa Fe. You could also say St. Louis or Sacramento or Seattle. An occupation, surgeon, secretary, right? Now, I could come up with several answers. Now, maybe I think surgeon, secretary, stenographer. I don't know. Stenography is kind of a lost art, but right. I could come up with several occupations. I need to decide which one is going to be the most unique, right? So stenography, no one else is going to come up with stenographer, but other people might go, hey, that's not even a thing anymore, right? Nobody writes shorthand. So I need to be able to defend my answer. But if I think somebody else is going to pick surgeon, that's not the one I'm going to want to pick. But you can only pick one. You can't have like multiple choice to make sure that the other team doesn't have it, right? So the goal is to pick the best answer if you come up with more than one. An Olympic event, there's skiing, there's snowboarding. I went with swimming. Kinds of candy. So I said Sour Patch Kids because I thought the most common common thing would probably be like Snickers, okay? So here's some rules for categories. You cannot use the same answer twice on the same list. So for example, back here, if for something you eat, I had said Snickers, I could not use that again for kinds of candy, right? Now, if I said Snickers on one and Sour Patch Kids on the other, that would be okay. But I could not use Snickers for both. You can use your notes. If you have notes to look back on, that's okay. I usually did this to review for, the activity is usually done to review for finals. Finger spelling doesn't count. And when we get to the actual activity, you'll see why. I want you to think outside the box. It's okay to be a little creative, both with hand shapes and with concepts, but I need your answers to be reasonable, right? And school appropriate. So for instance, an example that's outside the box a little bit, something you wear being swag, right? Like you're wearing a shirt, like a Richland shirt. That's Richland swag. Normally you work in groups and then you record your answers on a piece of paper. If you're doing this online, you're probably not in a group, but if you are in a group, you need to kind of keep your answers to yourselves and not let the other teams hear you. All right. In this case, instead of a letter, because to do this in ASL, instead of using a letter, we're going to use a hand shape. All right. So for example, a place. So think about places that start with a Y hand shape. There are a number of examples. Here's a few. California, Yosemite, and those are like proper nouns, but even like playground, the sign play comes with a Y. New York, also a place, right? Subway, that has a Y hand shape, and that is a place you could go. Subway, again, one of those, you might have to defend it a little bit, but like subway station or whatever, on the subway, right? It's a place where something could happen. So those are all examples of places that you could use that use a Y hand shape. You'll notice except for Yosemite, none of those actually, well, in New York, the rest of those don't even start with a Y in English. So hand shape are what's important. All right, so here's your first list. I want you to use a flat hand shape. So now that can That might sometimes look like a 5, that might sometimes look like a B, but for the most part, you want to stick with the flat hand shape. And here is your list. So come up with the best example you can for each of these activities. And I have several more lists to come, so I will post those separately. And happy signing.